the best two macro Terrans in StarCraft history face off in the biggest group of death in StarCraft 2 history. This is an absolutely exceptional series of matches. This is going to be Innovation, who is at the peak of his powers in this era, the beginning of 2013, the first GSL in Heart of the Swarm. And whenever Innovation started in the GSL, it was an absolutely jaw-dropping event. It was the last couple Wings of Liberty GSLs, and Innovation really established himself alongside MVP as the most intimidating StarCraft 2 Terran. And he's going to be facing off against the most intimidating Brood War Terran in this God tier round of 16 group of death game. You know, you think about the GSL and you say to yourself, group of death. Well, the GSL is full of so many God tier players that you get a lot of groups of death, a lot of groups where you look and you're like, my God, I can't believe two people aren't going to be able to advance out of this group. This was the biggest group of death in StarCraft 2 history. This was Innovation, who was at the peak of his powers and far and away the scariest player at this time and a heavy favorite to win this season of GSL. Startail Life, at the peak of his powers before any of that scandal garbage happened. This was Startail Life after he had won MLG Dallas 2012 and 2013, and he had won a GSL in Wings of Liberty. An absolute macro monster, and not the sort of guy that you wanted to face off against. Hilariously, in an earlier game I casted in this Innovation-a-thon, and the beginning intro leading up to it, Tasteless was like, let's get Innovation against Life as soon as possible, because they were sort of considered to be the two best guys, especially when you look at a macro mindset. They never ever relied on gimmicks or tricks. They were straight up players. And Flash, of course, is the best fucking pro gamer of all time. His nickname is God. That tells you all you need to know, folks. This guy is infallible. He's the best pro gamer ever in any esport. Better than Simple, better than Faker, better than fucking Kenny S. This guy gets it. He is the Brood War legend, the guy that is the gold standard for everything. Flash, untouchable, alright? It's just absolutely unfathomable how good he is. And the amount of hype behind this guy, because remember, this is 2013 era, first GSL and HOTS. All of these Kespa guys had just switched over. Your Flashes and your Jadongs, it took until the first HOTS to sort of get them around, but Innovation and a couple of the other Brood War guys were able to switch over a season or two before, and Innovation really established himself as an insidious monster and someone who you really had to respect on the highest level. And then the fourth player from this group is Parting, who's an absolute legend and has won a ton of lands. And if you consider the peak of Parting's power, it was actually at the end of 2012 he won that big BWC BlizzCon style tournament where he proved he was the best in the world. And that was really interesting because Parting at the time played Protoss, as he's done for his whole career, and that was a very Zerg favored meta. That was like the peak of the Broodlord Infestor era, and Parting was the one who showed everyone how powerful that Immortal Sentry all-in was. That was definitively his build, and he ripped through the entire Zerg bracket in a Zerg favored meta, and was always great at the mirror matchup and phenomenal against Terran. Made some deep GSL runs. And you look at Parting now, he's still very high level, still making round of 4. So it's interesting to see that Parting was a tournament S-class, a tournament winning Gosu at the beginning of his career in the 2012-2013 era, and then he came back years later into the current era and was still exceptional. So Innovation has gone for double proxy racks here, and Flash will scout it, which is kind of nice. I mean, obviously it's better that he scout it than not scout it, but it's one of those things where when you scout the cheese and it's already on your way to your base, there are situations in which you can't really make like the properly timed build order adjustment. And we see a little bit of Marine shooting up on the high ground here, trying to get a little bit of a foothold in Flash's base, but Flash, thankfully, had a couple Marines up on the high ground. He's got the bunker going, and it looks like he's going to stymie this and put a command center down. But if he had scouted that super early, he might have been able to stop the racks or alter his build in some way, but as it stands, he's just barely able to hold the proxy 2 barracks. Basically, if you scout that at that time, as your Zerg, like, oh, here comes the first Marine in the SCV, doesn't really help you that much. But if you're Terran and you can wall yourself in, helps a little bit more. So Flash is going to hold that first bit of pressure, and it's interesting to see Innovation do a pretty common cheesy build on a 4-player map, which is you just make the freaking 2 barracks in the middle of the map, and it's like, it doesn't matter where he spawns, I'll find him and cheese from there. So that's a common thing you see on 4-player maps. It's like, where do I proxy? I don't know where he spawns. Well, I'll just fucking make him in the middle, and it doesn't matter where he spawns, you know. So unfortunately, that proxy spot is very likely to get scouted as opposed to other proxy spots. And Flash intelligently comes down and snipes the SCV, building the bunker. This was one of those light contained bunkers that is one of those things that if you let it get up, it's a huge pain in the ass. That is a strategy in which if it occurs and they catch a foothold, it suddenly is something you have to deal with that is going to slow you down significantly. But if you just don't let them get away with it, it's like, well, holy crap, that really wasn't that strong. It was almost sort of like a flimsy, I hope you're not looking type thing. Flash is known as the most methodical macro player ever, and is a guy who you really don't want to mess with in the late game. Of course, he's exceptional and pretty much perfect in every aspect of the game, but remember, the longer the games go in StarCraft, the more it favors the better player, because obviously the longer the game goes on, the more stuff there is to do, the more it pushes your multitask. And Flash is going for an insanely greedy build here, super fast third command center. In many ways, he sort of knows, like, well, I'm not going to get attacked. Innovation isn't going to go into like a follow-up push. Even if he is being cheesy, it's very unlikely that in cross positions, Innovation's going to go for like a follow-up cheese. He's more likely to just go into a standard macro game. And it looks like Flash here is trying for mech because he's made an insanely early armory. And I just want to note the building placement. It's tucked away in a place that's very likely to miss a scan. If Inno scans, he's either going to scan the front of the natural or like right in the middle of the main, and the armory's hidden in a beautiful location. And considering the reactor on the factory, Flash might go for a bit of drop play here. Now, if you remember, I actually had forgotten this until I saw the build order. This was the Blue Flame or the Hellbat drop meta. So back when HOTS first came out, Hellbats and mines were insane. And Hellbats basically did as much damage as Blue Flame Hellbats do now by default. And the meta in TVT was actually Hellbat drop versus Hellbat drop. It was absolutely insane. And the Hellbat was so powerful that we would see Terran players just basically trying to kill each other with Hellbat drops. It was effing crazy. Absolutely insane. So Flash is ranging across the map, wants to do a bit of a Hellbat drop in the mineral line of Inno. Inno's sort of sitting there saying, okay, well, I'm going to have a siege tank ready for it. And thankfully, Inno does scout that other Hellbat drop trying to go north, but he doesn't know about the current one. And Inno will do a little bit of a marine drop here in Flash's backline and finally get to do some damage. And the Hellbats get dropped right on the tank. Holy crap, they're doing a lot of damage. Look how absurdly powerful the Hellbats are, just Ramboing down that tank. And Inno picks that other one up. Very nice there. That was Flash, rather. And here's Innovation dropping in the back natural. And here Flash surges forward. And this is just a knockdown drag out. Two players really going at each other ruthlessly and dealing some heavy damage. I mean, look at this Hellbat. It just won't die. Even a Marauder's out there. And again, Flash picks it up beautiful. Here comes the other Hellbat drop. The weird thing about having a tank siege like this is you're going to friendly fire your own units. And if you only have just the tank, he's just going to drop on it. And again, the Hellbat's just doing an insane amount on Innovation. This is absolutely hilarious to watch. You can see why they got nerfed, as the Hellbat is literally cleaning up Marines and tanks, no problem. And you can imagine how good this was versus Zerg, too. Even though Zerg had the Queen, we would actually see the meta against Zerg was very Hellbat and mine focused. And the meta in TVT was all about Hellbats. It was crazy. I'd actually forgotten like how ridiculous this was, but we see here just two very talented players duking it out, going back and forth. but appropriately defending and not letting it snowball. Yes, they both took damage because they had units across the map, but it wasn't one of these situations where a drop endlessly festers and one guy doesn't react. So Innovation is attempting to just defend and play solidly here. This is a very brutal scenario where you know if you go for a push out, the possibility of getting backstabbed is very high. Innovation's going for a more modest mix of bio tank and really bio focused on the Marauders, because the Marauders do bonus damage to armored. You want to shred the Hellbats and you want to shred the tanks, of course, so Marauders are very good in TVT. And here we see an exceptionally just brilliant move by Inno to sort of guess that Flash is going to keep queuing up these multi-prong Hellbat drops, and he went ahead and picked that off. Sometimes you see the Vikings used on patrol defensively at your base. You almost never expect to have Vikings cut off your drop right after you send it, and another Hellbat drop will occur here. Instant reaction from Inno, and Inno's in this weird spot where all of his stuff's across the map, he can't really retreat, and he's saying to himself, well shit, I guess I gotta just push across the map and see what pops. Flash does have a couple tanks. Innovation might try to load everything up into medevacs and just bulldog on top of Flash, but Stim is just finished for Inno, so that's going to be critical as far as attacking and defending, because we can see the bio just straight up couldn't even kill the Hellbats without Stim, which is funny. Inno breaking the rocks hilariously there. I think he thinks that Flash has floated a third down there, which hasn't happened yet, even though Flash has had the third forever. Very intelligent there. A lot of players, of course, as soon as that third is done, is just going to say fuck it and float it down. Flash knows he wouldn't be able to hold it with the style he's playing. Notice how many turrets Flash has made too, really showing a fastidious attention to detail. And Innovation here is behind in workers by a significant amount. Flash continuing to harass, and Inno's in this weird spot where he knows he's behind, he needs to attack, and he sees all these turrets and tanks. Turrets up on goofy high grounds, turrets in the main, and tanks nicely spread out. And as a turret attempts to be made, Flash is going to knife in again with the Hellbat, as a Stim Marauder and a Marine shoot at that Hellbat and seemingly do negative damage until the SCVs get pulled. But again, Flash is doing what all intelligent players do, which is whenever you attack someone with the drop, you go in multiple locations to force their multitask. As look how fast those SCVs die. I mean, that's just incredible. And you could see this is why the meta was Hellbat versus Hellbat, is Flash drops right into units and a turret and still gets a ton of kills. Innovation below 30 workers at this point. And Flash needs to hold here. Innovation really saying screw it and just running in with everything, knowing how behind he is. And Flash wheeling down with tank Hellbat. Looks like he will stifle the initial push. And because Innovation did sort of slam in there with everything, as he got dropped, he finds himself doubled in supply as God takes an insurmountable advantage and the game. And we really saw there a hilarious throwback to the 2013 meta, where Hellbat drops into more Hellbat drops into more Hellbat drops were the go-to there, and we really saw why the Hellbat got nerfed there in a nutshell. So Innovation enters this insidious group of death against just S-class legends of the game, Life, Flash, and Parting. Can he get out of this round of 16? He's already lost one match, so the subsequent games will be up soon. Stay easy, leave me a like.